What is up, everybody? Welcome to this week's Jesse Spec YouTube video. Forgive me, I haven't been posting so much recently, but work has been really busy. And on the other hand, I've been also working on the car, so that's a good thing. So today we're gonna dive into an episode on how to remove the 2ZZ of your car or any engine in your MR2 without a hoist. And that is useful because actually, in all honesty, many racing teams actually do not work with a lift or a hoist. So the fact of being able to do it on the floor is actually an interesting exercise for myself, since I've always used lifts and hoists until now. And I wanted to give it a try on the floor, and this is a perfect chance for you guys as well to see that it's possible to do it yourself in your own home garage. So I hope this video is interesting, and let's dive right into it. Join me.
Okay, we're back in the office, and today Tim is helping us again. Many thanks to him, shout out to him. So here you can see my broken 2ZZ, sorry, offensive footage right here. But it's very frustrating, so let's get this engine out as quickly as possible. As you can see, the only main big tool that you will need for doing this, so this is of course going to be a tutorial, so you can remove an engine pretty easily yourself in your own garage. Step 1, lift up your car, jack it up with a jack, and make sure to put the jack stands. Thanks for the guys who pointed out that I didn't put jack stands. Of course, in a definitive state, you should always use jack stands because it's really dangerous to not do it. So make sure to do that and don't do stupid mistakes like many of us have done in the past. So here you see I've started removing the intake, the battery tray. Oh, look at that. It looks very similar principle as when we removed the engine from the EP3. So the principle is actually very similar. For space reasons, I decided also to remove the rear bumper so we have more visibility. I also removed the hardtop, and here you can see the ECU. So we're gonna do like with the EP3 in the last video, we're gonna remove all the cables and the wiring harness on inside the vehicle and then pull it out through the main hole there, unplug everything. And once that is done, we'll have all the electricals that are out. This little green harness that you can see is an adapter harness for the 2ZZ loom to be adapted to the MR2 chassis and ECU, of course, of the 2ZZ. So that's a pretty useful thing that I used, and I'm really happy I had that because it makes it really almost nearly a perfect plug-in, plug-and-play solution. So here I'm just putting all the cables together, getting the joint basically that really makes the engine bay and the interior of the car separated with a seal basically. So I gotta crack that open and push it through the hole, and then we'll pull the whole harness as well. So I also realized on the fly that it's maybe easier just to remove the adapter harness from the main engine harness so it can be easier to pull out of the hole there. So make sure to do that. Okay, so when you buy these adapter harnesses, there is the VVT-Li torch that is this little harness that you see that I'm pulling through the hole here. It was actually easier to unplug that on the engine side first and then pull it again through the hole here inside to the car. And now I'm proceeding to push out the whole engine harness out of that hole that you can see. There's a purple tape there. Here I'm just showing you the VVT-Li harness here. And so that's gonna get out of the way. And if you can see back there, there's a purple Scotch tape on the harness there. That's basically what we're gonna try to push through that hole in the back and pull it out in the engine bay exactly the same way as we did on the EP3. So here you can see everything got pulled out and we're good. Okay, fooling around but getting work done. So we pulled the exhaust catback, Fujitsubo catback out. Tim is admiring his sweater because he has a Mercedes overall with a Honda Civic Type R sweater. You can see we removed the downpipe, the battery as well, and here you see what it looks like pulling the harness through the engine bay. You can see I also unplugged the fuel hose, connecting it to the fuel rail, which is a clipped version, very easy to remove. And now we're emptying all the fluids, including gearbox oil, engine oil, coolant, etc. With these wonderful dripping noises, you can see here we're taking care of the coolant. So actually what was easiest is to remove one of the main hoses in the back there, and with the force of gravity basically everything is going to be dripping out like this, and it will empty itself automatically, which was actually the easiest thing to do. So we just removed the hose over there that you can see, and according to that we're letting it drip out, and it makes things easier like that. We've removed also all the suspension arms and everything, disconnecting it basically from the main subframe that we'll be removing. So the game plan is, as you can see, we put the crane on the engine just to support it, and now that all the liquids are out, basically we can remove the whole engine and subframe gearbox in one package, exactly the opposite that we did last time, and you will see that it actually all can come out in one piece, and you don't even need a lift to do that. That's pretty amazing and very useful for people building race cars in areas where you don't have a hoist. So by the way, having a hoist is really useful, but if you look at many real true racing teams, they do not work with hoists, they work on the floor like this. So honestly, this is also why I wanted to do that. I've always had the luxury of having a hoist as a professional mechanic, so I wanted to do like this and see if there are any benefits as well. We're having a bit of trouble having the crane basically holding the engine because the pallet is really in the way of the feet here, so we just want to support it for the moment so it doesn't fall out. Maybe try to find a different pallet or a different way of putting the crane. This is not ideal, and I have to actually stand on it to keep enough weight on it. And so now we're removing the main screws holding the subframe in, you know, the gray part that you see sticking out just at the bottom there. And now we're gonna proceed to put a pallet mover, I don't know exactly how you call these tools, to move pallets basically. And that will help us to be able to move around a little bit, lift up the pallet a little bit, and also have more free moving. And it's always easier actually to drop engines onto pallets in general, because you can just move things out easier. What I like about the black and red Swiss Tracks floor that I have is that actually I can, even though if oil is spilled on it or etc., it's very anti-slipping. However, I find that sliding pallets on them is actually very easy, and you could probably even get away with it without a pallet mover and just slide it out by yourself. But honestly, like, since I have that tool, I'm just going to be using it. So here you see we just dropped the engine with the crane onto the pallet, moving the engine torch out of the way so it doesn't get destroyed. And here you see we of course had removed all the engine mounts and transmission mounts. So you see there's one on the left, one on the right, behind the manifold, and towards the exhaust manifold as well. And actually that one we didn't even need to remove it. So now we're gonna change the crane's position and actually lift up the whole body of the car. Make sure your crane is sturdy enough. Make sure that you really have a solid mounting point, and that there's no risk that it actually might fall or something, because this is the dangerous part. Okay, so make sure not to do anything stupid here. So here you see we actually are lifting the car up, and as you can see, believe it or not, we're gonna actually manage to remove the engine without even removing the crash bar that you see in the back there. But we just, of course, are realizing that there are some little hoses and things that we forgot to remove, so we're gonna do that now. And you saw that I moved the crane over, and that is actually a key point, because if you have a pallet below, the legs of the crane might not actually be aligning up well, and this is actually going to help you greatly to move the engine out of the way. So you see here, the crane is on wheels, we're moving it up a little bit, and we could just slide it to the side with perfect stability, and we're getting really close to letting this car drop its engine transmission with the whole subframe. You see here something is still holding it, but actually by tilting it over a little bit, we managed to get the engine out. Man, like, that is such a satisfying moment, because, you know, doing it for the first time and doing it also on camera in front of everybody is never easy. So this actually worked out very well. And you can see that I'm really relieved and happy that it worked out pretty well. So engine is out, no damage. Tim did a good job. Thanks a lot, buddy. And here you see engine base free to welcome a brand new engine. Oh, and we have a little visitor today. This is Ragnar, Tim's dog. Such a cutie. It's an Amstaff dog, very cute one, still a baby, you can see by its leash. It's always nice to have some visitors like that. Ooh. Tell me in the comments if you love dogs as much as I do. Make sure to comment below. Okay, back to business. So now, always important, and that's usually the annoying part, is once you finish the job, make sure to clean up and make it a welcoming workspace to actually do the good job of reinstalling the engine, etc. So here we're just putting it back on jack stands. We're going to remove the crane and everything. Make sure you do not break anything. Also be very careful. I saw a video of somebody recently putting the jack stand in the wrong place on the MR2, and you can actually bend the whole lower part of the car. So be really careful to put jack stands in the right area, especially when you're tilting it forwards like we're doing. And yeah, here you see we're done. I'm relieved. We're gonna move everything out. And man, this was a really successful operation. You never know how it's gonna go, because there's always a little bit of apprehension when you do things for the first time. But as you can see in this video, this is, I look happy, but you can see that this is absolutely doable for even people with very little knowledge. You can apply this to any engine removal in an MR2. So here we have, of course, the 2ZZ with its full drivetrain assembly and subframe, and an empty engine bay, welcoming and ready for a new engine that will be the K20a. You can see that I left the shifter cables in there for the simple reason that I'm using a kit that is going to keep the original Toyota shifter cables.
All right, we've achieved and we've successfully removed the 2ZZ from the MR2, and things are about to get very interesting, because now the engine is out. Just to summarize quickly the video, you can see it's pretty easy. All you need is basically a jack stand, and I'd say the other important thing is a crane, and you can do it anywhere on the floor. Honestly, there isn't really a need for many tools. So just be careful, use jack stands, and make sure to be safe and not do crazy stupid things when you're by yourself at home, for example, and get squashed by your car. Just be careful. Anyway, so today we're gonna close this video with this, and guess what? Lots of parts for the Kswap have come in, and I'm about to show you all of that next week. So I'm gonna make a full video on showing you everything I've received up until now, give you also full costs perspectives of how much it costs, and I will compare it to the costs I paid for the 2ZZ swap, so you can also have a fair comparison, what is more expensive, what is cheaper, and we'll just walk through all of it. So I hope this video was interesting for you. Make sure to subscribe, leave a comment below. If you have any questions, make sure to ask in the comments because it can benefit everybody else. And if you have a friend who needs some inspiration to get his engine swap or Kswap in his MR2 done, make sure to share my video. I'd appreciate that a lot. So without further ado, let's close this video and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.